Right, I'm here at Roundhay Park. It's quite a dullish day, but I'm not too bothered because one of the reasons that I've come today is to photograph swans. And in the actual park itself, there's two lakes. There's a small lake and the bigger lake. The bigger lake, I think it's called Victoria Lake. It has a lot of swans, and I just want to come and photograph some of those. As I say, the light's quite dull, but that will suit me because it'll just keep that contrast down. The camera that I'm using is this one. It's the Canon EOS 5 that was given to me by a neighbour. Her husband used this camera quite a lot over the years, but fortunately he passed away, and she wanted to give it to a good home, and she knew I collected cameras, so she gave it to me. It also came with two zoom lenses, EF lenses, and the only thing I bought for it is the nifty 50, which I'm going to use today for some of the shots. So get out the van now and just have a little walk round and just see, and hopefully it won't be too busy. That's the only thing that puts me off when I'm coming to these places. Is I tend to get like not panic attacks, but a little bit stressed out. There's a lot of people walking about and getting in front of the camera and talking, especially when you're doing videoing. But we'll see how we go on. I will give a quick review of this camera at the end of the video, and then I'll show you the pictures that I've taken. So we'll get the camera set up. Got the camera bag. I've got a few lenses, and I'm using Fuji Acros because I want to use the lenses reasonably wide open, not fully wide open. This is f1.8. I might go down to around about f4, just get some of that background blur. And I've also fetched with me one of the EF lenses that this neighbour gave to me. It's 75-300. It's not the L series quality, but I have used one of those before in the past on my digital cameras when I use digital, and it wasn't too bad a lens, and I think for black and white photography it'll be fine. So I want to use that because I want to, if I can, capture if there is one there, one of the swans coming on the lake. Because the last time I came here, I noticed that the swans contrasted beautiful with the dark water. So I'll probably use that lens as well. Now for this video, I'm going to mount the GoPro onto the hot shoe of the camera, and because I'm not going to be able to hold the camera and take photographs of these swans, it's not going to be easy. So I'm going to mount it onto the hot shoe and just let you see me taking the pictures with this camera. And as I say, at the end of the video, I'll give a little review of what I think about this camera, and just show you around it, and I'll also show you the pictures if they turn out. So we'll get moving now and go down to the lake. Roundhay Park, it's all one word now, Roundhay, but years ago it was known as Roundhay, and Roundhays used to be an area of woodland, and it's where animals were reared for hunting, and this was one of those areas. And in those days, going back hundreds of years, they didn't use guns to kill the livestock that was bred for shooting. They used bows and arrows and daggers and all sorts of nasty stuff. Really a bit sad, really, but its history's changed over the years, and eventually it was bequeathed to the Leeds people, and now it's a national park, and it's one of the top parks in the UK. And as you see, that's the amphitheatre, they call it, down below there. There's many things happened there over the years. I remember a few years ago, I lived as a crow flies around, I'd say about 6-7 miles, and the Rolling Stones were giving a concert down in that theatre there, where the cricket ground is, you can see there, and they were so loud that I could hear the music in every word they were singing, and that was from 6 or 7 miles away, so you can imagine how loud they were. But it's a beautiful park. As I say, it contains 2 lakes. There's a mansion, Roundhay Mansion, which I might show you if I have time. one of the main buildings here. But where I'm heading is down there, down this area down here, and that's going towards what we call Victoria Lake, to hopefully take some photographs of the swans. So as you can see, I've arrived at the lake and we've got all these sort of swans. There's absolutely loads of them, so I've just got to be a little bit patient and see what I can come up with. As I say, I don't know if I mentioned this, I'm using Fuji Acros, and I'm going to be using the lens pretty wide open around about f4, so I can get the handheld shutter speed. Now you might think when you see the following footage that I was just shooting aimlessly because I've got autofocus and auto wind on to try and get some sort of pictures and just snap away, but in reality I was trying really hard to get a nice tight composition of the swans together and get the beautiful shapes and elegance of the swans' heads and the necks. And as I say, it wasn't easy, and I soon realised a few things. The first one was that the original aperture and shutter speed that I was thinking I was going to use, which was 125 at f4, I had to increase the shutter speed to 1/250th of a second at f2.8, which gave me less depth of field, so I had to be more careful. I knew that the 35mm format, the full frame of the negative, wasn't going to work with this because I was getting some of the pathing. So I decided and had to think square when I was taking the pictures, thinking that I'm going to crop them square in editing, and that would give me a second chance at just fine tuning the composition. The other thing I realised was that by shooting 5 or 6 images wasn't going to work. I needed to shoot a lot more to make sure I got the pictures that I wanted. I ended up taking around about 25 images. The other thing that drove me back was the constant beeping every time the camera acquired focus. I didn't know how to turn it off when I was there, but when I got home I realised that I could actually turn that beep off. I've just taken an instant light reading before I took those shots. I'm working with a light meter rather than meeting the camera. I think I can get more accurate exposure, and the exposure was 250th of a second at f2.8. Well, I'm going to the other side now. So I'll just wait till somebody comes with some bread. There's side effects from now. My goodness, this is hard. Talk about overpowering visual information in the viewfinder. Trying to focus on one of these swans' head, knowing that with the f2.8 aperture that I'm not going to get that much depth of field. It's not easy. I just love it when the heads go underwater. It just gives a different visual look to the picture. We know the swans, but we can't see the heads. They're such beautiful, elegant birds. Well, I just took a load of shots then. I don't know what I've got. I'm just after 1 or 2. Something that I can print. 20 exposures later, and these are the pictures that I managed to capture, trying to show the elegance of the Swan. Just another shot of those people there, and this time I've got the 75 to 300 at 300mm. The exposure was 30th second at f8, so I'm going to get some blur in the movement of the birds and that, but I don't mind that. And at this distance it should be quite nice, so we'll just see. We've got more feed in there. I wonder if they ever stop eating. Right, better move on. Right, I've pulled myself away from the big lake here, and I was just taking too many photographs. You can get carried away with these modern cameras with autofocus and auto wind on, etc. It's so easy to take pictures. I've only fetched one roll at Fuji Acros, and I've shot 22 pictures already, so I thought, no, I've got to come away, and hopefully I've got the shot that I'm after. The autofocus on this camera worked great, well, at least I think it did. The image looked clear in the viewfinder, but only when I've developed the film will we find out if it's been accurate. The camera itself, I've really enjoyed using it. You know, I do like more manual cameras where it slows you down a little bit, but you know, in circumstances when you're photographing wildlife like this, the moderner film cameras with the autofocus, auto wind on, etc., makes it a lot easier and more enjoyable, because you're more likely to capture the picture that you want. So I'm going to move on now from here to the smaller lake and see if I can see anything there, and I'm just going to have a scout around Roundhay Park, because it's years since I've been, and just see if there's other things that I want to photograph on a better day. I might come with my pinhole camera one day, because there are certain things within the park that could make some interesting photographs with the pinhole camera. So I'll go to the smaller lake, which is just up there, and then just have a little walk about and see if we can see other things that I might photograph on a return journey. Yeah, that's that's something that could be quite interesting to photograph with the pinhole camera. I might have a look and see if I can find a picture with this camera, not the whole thing, just get some detail from it, but I think for a pinhole photograph on the right type of day with a little bit more blue sky, a little bit more sun, would make a really nice picture. So I'm glad I'm just sort of scouting the area, so to speak. I'll have a closer look. I'm right in the inside of it now. You can see all the water in troughs. I don't know what they're for. This is all the way around it. And then if I can show you looking up, I don't know if it'll underexpose. That's the actual roof space of it. Really interesting. Love this sort of architecture. So I've had a good look round at this structure. I don't know what they call these things really, but I'm going to photograph between these two trees. It's got lovely you know, texture on it with the bark, and then frame in the centre that watering trough. And I might get myself in picture on this one, and what I'm going to do is focus on that area there and throw that background out of focus. So I'm going to set the self timer, and I'm just going to sit on those steps, and I'll be in the picture out of focus. Now to take a light meter reading, I'm going to use the Seaconic instant light reading, and it's giving me, so at 2.8 I want 30th of a second. So I'll set the camera to 2.8, 30th of a second. Just check the light reading again. It's going to get dull now. That's about right. So take the shot, see if I can work the self timer, and then get in the photograph quick. So I'll press that down. Whoops, that didn't work. Where have I gone wrong? How do I set the self timer? This is trouble with modern stuff. I don't know how to set the self timer. I'll just have to pause this until I can work it out. Right, just move quick now. Hopefully that's worked. As I always keep saying, if you don't experiment, you don't find out these things. To try and just think out of the box and do something different. But we'll just see how that turns out. So, automation, I've just wasted another 2 frames trying to work the self timer. It's only because I don't know the camera really, but right, we'll move on. How many shots have I got left? I've got, I think about 4 shots left. Well, I've just reviewed the video on the GoPro, and I won't be in this shot. The self timer went off after about 3 or 4 seconds. There must be a setting on the camera where I can set it for longer, but I can't be bothered looking for it now, so we'll just leave it at that without me in the picture. It's probably better anyway without me in it. Well, I think we can safely say that autumn's arrived. These absolutely beautiful colours, absolutely gorgeous. It's a pity I'm shooting in black and white. I might have to try some colour film for these beautiful colours. They're just spectacular really, and it's just starting. It's going to get a lot better. So this is what they call the upper lake at Roundhay Park. It's got the fountain in, and what I'm going to do is take a picture of the fountain, but I'm going to include this and keep this in sharp focus and just throw the fountain slightly out of focus. It's got some nice shape and texture to that. I'm going to take a light reading. Instant light reading, and I'm going to use 125 f4. So this will be sharp, hopefully, and that will go out of focus, but we'll still get that impression of the fountain. It's just to do something different. So I'll take the camera up. I'll go on to manual exposure, 125 f4, and take the shot. So that's that one. I'm nearly out of film now, so I'll just carry on walking around, then get back and see what we've got. This is what I love about film photography, it's all anticipation. You don't know. I do know I've made a couple of mistakes. I took some long shots of the lake with the telephoto lens, telephoto zoom, but had the exposure compensation set wrong, and the camera had inadvertently moved it. That's the trouble with me. I'm all fingers and thumbs when it comes to all this technical stuff on cameras. You've just got to keep it as simple, for me, as simple as possible. But I wasn't too bothered about those shots. Right, move on. What I also saw in this picture was the plant in the foreground looked like it was spraying up with its curly branches and echoing the shape of the fountain. That's the way I saw it anyway. The shutter on this camera in the video sounds very noisy, as does the autofocus confirmation beep, but in reality it is a lot quieter than what you hear in the video, because the GoPro was mounted on the hot show of the camera, so it was very close to the shutter. So that's the last photograph I'm going to take today at Roundhay Park. I've enjoyed it, and it's given me other ideas, and when I come back, and I'll probably come back with a pinhole camera, I think I'll get some nice atmospheric shots. But I've enjoyed it today with the Canon EOS 5. The last picture, the swans moved from the far side of the lake and came towards me, so I had to move pretty quick. I took the 50mm lens off and I put this one on. It's the EF 75 to 300 lens. It's not a bad lens, it's not L series quality. One problem I did have was the aperture. At 300mm it's only f5.6. Now the light's dropping, and the fastest shutter speed I could get was 1/15 of a second. Now hopefully at that distance, you know, from the lens to the subjects, the swans, I'm hoping that the 15th of a second would just be enough to stop the motion, that I won't know until I develop the negative. So as I say, I've quite enjoyed it today. The light's not been brilliant, but I've tried to think out of the box again and try and come up with images that are different. So I'll get off now, get the film developed. I'll probably think I'm going to develop this in 510 Pyro. I might change my mind, I'll just say, but I'm thinking of doing it in 510 Pyro developer. I've been using that for a while, and I've liked the results from it. And I'll also, you know, if the pictures are turned out, I'll show you the pictures, but I'll also show you quickly around the EOS 5 camera, which I've enjoyed using today. There's loads of reviews of this camera on YouTube, but I'll just give my take on it. So I'll get off now and make my way home and get me chemicals warmed up. And this is the fun of, as I say, film photography. I don't know what I've got until I've developed the negative. It's all that anticipation. Some people might not like that, but I find it makes it more interesting. So, quick overview of the camera. It's not a full review. There's lots of YouTube videos giving you detailed review of this camera. I'm just going to show you quickly around it and just give you my take on the camera. But first of all, let's look at the specifications. It's a TTL phase detection autofocus, a shutter speed range from 30 seconds to 1/8000th of a second. It's metering modes. It's got 16 zone, evaluative metering, center weighted metering and spot metering. It's a built-in TTL flash. It can fire at 5 frames per second in the one-shot AF mode and 3 frames per second in the A1 servo mode. It's got 5 horizontal autofocus sensors. If you want, you can use it with the eye control focusing system. It's got custom functions that you can set to change how the camera works to suit you, and it only requires one 6-volt battery, the 2C R5 battery, which you can get easily these days. Now, to fit the battery, it fits in hand grip. You just turn that lever, it's very quick to do, push it in and then turn it to lock it, and we've got the battery fitted. The build quality, when you get older, you feel that it feels a little bit plasticky, but I would believe it's quite strong. Some of these modern polycarbonate plastics are very strong. And when we compare this camera with, say, the Canon EF body that I have, this is a all metal body, and then compare the weight, you know, this camera is a lot heavier than this one. So there is advantages in using the plastics because you get a lighter body. The other thing with this camera is that it takes the Canon EF mount, so you can use your L series lenses if you want the ultimate in quality. For this video I use the Nifty 50, which for the money is a very good lens. So, you know, I've been looking on eBay and you can pick one of these bodies up without a lens for around about £65. It's an absolute bargain for the specifications. And the Nifty 50, I got this second hand. I think I paid around about £40 for it. So you know, for £100 you've got a fully specified, very modern film camera with autofocus. Let's take a look at the top of the camera. Now this is where you turn the camera on. It's with this dial here. It's very similar to some of the more modern digital Canon cameras. You press that button in from L, that's locked, and we've got full program, shutter priority, aperture priority, full metered manual control. You've got the depth mode where you focus on the nearest point with the AF and then focus on the farthest point with the AF, and the camera will try and select an aperture that will get the area between the near and the far in focus, and it does work, does that. That's the flash sync, the X. CF is where you set the custom functions, and CAL is where you calibrate your eye to the eye control focusing system. You only have to do that once, and once it's done, that's it. And basically all you do is look at an autofocus point and the camera will focus on that area. It works really good, it really does work, but the only thing I don't like about it is that you tend to be concentrating looking at the AF point rather than the subject. So I don't find using it without that any problem, just using it in the normal AF mode. So there are all the modes, apart from these at this side of the dial. You've got the portrait mode, you know, sports, close-up, etc., landscape. I don't tend to use those, but for people starting into photography, they can be handy. That button presses up the flash when you need it. To change the modes on the camera, it's dead easy. You press in whatever button you want to change. So if you want to change drive, we press that button in, and you can see we're on single. If you can see that, on single shot, and then press it again, and we can go to the drive system where it's firing, depending on what mode you're in. A1 servo or the one shot. You've got different modes, so you can change the drive there. And then if we go down to the AF, press the AF button, we can change it from one shot to A1 servo, and then back again. And then we've got the focusing, as we can see there. It's on evaluative, then it goes to a spot, then center weighted. So very easy to access. And then this here, you can change the ISO. You can change the auto brackets by moving the dial. You can that's for red eye reduction, I think. We can turn that horrible bleep off there using this, and then we've got multiple exposure mode, and you can set as many as you want on that, up to around about I think 9. So you can do 9 images on one frame. So, you know, very, very easy to use. If you're in aperture priority mode, you use the command dial at the back, and when you turn that, it will change the exposure by underexposing. That's at 2 stops, 1 stop, no exposure compensation, +1, +2. So it's very, very, very easy to use. The autofocus is activated by just pressing on the shutter button at the front, and you can actually, if you keep it pressed down, it'll lock the exposure and lock the metered reading. If I were to say any negative things about the camera, is some of the connections. You have to screw these things off, which I think are going to get lost. That's for flash sync, and they're a little bit fiddly to use if you're out and you've got cold hands. So I'm struggling now to get that on. I won't bother now. And it's the same there where you fit an electronic cable release. Just a little bit fiddly. You can change the autofocus points again by press it in there. So you can change them with that. That's the exposure lock there. So there's lots of things you can do with this camera. To load the camera, it's dead easy. You open the back. I'll just show how this works. Place the film in there. You've no sprockets to engage. You just pull the film across, bob the leader in there, shut the camera door, and it winds on very quickly to number 1. I'll put the lens cap on, and then if I'm going to rewind it, let me take a few exposures first. AF off. In the custom functions, you can make it that when the camera rewinds, it doesn't rewind the leader right into the canister, which if you're doing your own developing can make it very awkward. I've set it to leave the leader out, and to rewind the film, you just press that button there. The camera's rewinding now, and hopefully it's left the leader out, which it has. I say it comes in very handy when you develop your own film. So basically that's the Canon EOS 5. If I have to give this camera marks out of 10, well, you know, considering you can buy this body for around about £60–70, I've got to give it 10 out of 10. I found it very enjoyable to use. The autofocus was quick. It seemed to snap onto focus very quickly. It's not got the autofocus points, it's only got 5, like the more modern cameras now, which have dozens of them. But it does work, and it's just getting used to using the camera. So yeah, I would highly recommend this camera. Get out and buy one. If you're a digital user and you're using a Canon digital camera, you can fit your EF lenses, your L series lenses on this, so you can shoot film as well as digital. So if you want to go modern with your film cameras, then I would highly recommend this camera, the Canon EOS 5. You know, I know you can get other film cameras that are equally or better specified, but I doubt you'll get one at this price with this specification. I'd highly recommend it. So that is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. As usual, I've tried to take pictures in a different sort of way than what you might normally think of taking pictures of swans, etc. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. If you like the video, please give me a like. Better still, subscribe to my channel, and as I always say, stay safe, and I'll see you all in the next video.